Hey guys, it's Wednesday, and I hope you know what that means by now or have read the title of the video. It's time to review some comics. So we got a big stack this week, big stack next week it looks like too. So just going to get started with Adventure Time number 26. I don't know if this is the A cover, this is the B cover. I just checked on the thing. This is the B cover. Start of a new arc. Um, of course, last Adventure Time arc was, oh golly, I can't even remember. It was I know the last Adventure Time thing I read was the Marceline thing. Um, but we start a new arc here. The cover is non-indicative of the actual story, which is that Finn and Jake find an old abandoned weapons factory. Let me find a good page. Yeah, find an old abandoned weapons factory right here, and they're exploring it. And through this story, Jake is constantly getting hurt by all sorts of machines. He starts wishing how he didn't have a body anymore because bodies are so much trouble. And a lot of this issue's humor is kind of pointing out all of these really trivial flaws with bodies, like how they have you have to go to the bathroom, and so we have this whole house, this room in most people houses that are just reserved to go into the bathroom when instead they could have a video arcade and stuff like that. Kind of just getting a little existential there about, the point of having a corporeal form when they find this machine that turns them into ghosts, and BMO finds them as ghosts, and that's how the first part of this arc ends. And then we have a backup story, which is Finn and Jake exploring a swamp, and Finn getting trapped beneath the water for a bit and bothering some fish. Overall, probably not as strong a issue as usually. I mean, again, first issues are usually kind of hard to judge by this, but I think just the general. I mean, it started off initially with a really good joke. I think just that they're exploring this old weapons factory, and I think that all of the danger signs are the answers to dungeon puzzles. Um, so like, yeah, for this one's like answers on the wall. So they think they have to get hit by the box when it's a warning to not get hit by the box, and this is the sort of thing why Jake is constantly getting hurt. And there's this great gag in the beginning where it's just Finn and Jake, and they're wondering why no one is joining them. And they all have better things to do. And I just love this one panel here of a lumpy space princess fighting a cyborg version of herself. I don't know, I just think that's really funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if they're going to remain in the weapons factory. I don't know how long they're going to be in this setting, because the setting I think kind of wore out. The main not having a body thing kind of solved itself, I guess, by the end of the issue. So I do wonder where they're going to go. With this premise of Finn and Jake being incorporeal, and of course how they get their bodies back afterwards. But yeah, I mean, Adventure Time continues to be a really good comic, especially if you enjoy the show. If you do enjoy the show, pick it up, and maybe try a few arcs first. I can't really tell where this is going, and it's still good. It's still very consistent with past comics or past issues in the series. So yeah, that's really all I got to say about it. I'm gonna put this here from now before moving on to the Superior Spider-Man Annual, and I think this is the second annual. Yes, it is the second annual. This takes place during the Goblin War, which is the main event happening in Superior Spider-Man right now. But it's not a numbered part of the Goblin War. It's not like an official tie-in. It's just some two side stories. Spidey hardly shows up, actually. The first one is about Ben Ulrich, or Ulrich. Is there an L in it? There's no L. I've been pronouncing Ulrich this whole time. It's Ulrich. I have no idea now because I've been pronouncing it with an L this entire time. But it's Ben Ulrich, who is the brother of Philoric, who is the current Hobgoblin. And I mean, if you can, like, I just showed you this one page. This whole story is a two-story book. It looks like this. I just love this style. I love the neons and the harsh shadows. I like the pinks and the blue. I just do. I love this entire style. I think it's great. And the whole story is like that. I want to find another good panel of that. I'll probably show the Spider-Man panel. Yeah, I mean, really clear, crisp lines. Just the way the colors, the high contrast. I do want to show this other panel too over here because it just reminds me so much of Asbat when Azrael was Batman during Nightfall. Just the costume with the armor, the ears look like the bat ears, the cape. I just got such strong Asbat impression from this, and I don't know, I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Yeah, I just love the art style, first of all. Just the pinks and blues. Very Miami Vice, I guess, which I also have like a heart spot for aesthetically. I don't know. I like that whole thing. I took a look at the Daredevil #1 that came out today. I didn't get it, but it was recommended to me. I didn't want to spend any more money than I already was spending today because I spent like 25 something on comics. Anyway, the actual story part of this book, it's really good. It's basically what Ben Ulrich is doing. I forgot if I said brother. No, it's his. Phil Ulrich is his nephew. It's the uncle of Ben Ulrich, and he's a reporter, and he's trying to basically do his part right now in order to, do his part in the Goblin War. He's trying to find a cure for Phil, mostly, who is his family, who he still cares about. But yeah, he's just trying to, I guess, deal with Phil now, trying to cure him, make him better, make sure he doesn't get into too much trouble. And we find out just through this that Phil he's lost it. If you've been reading the actual book, we've just been reading Superior, you know that Phil is just bonkers. He's like past the point of redemption. But this is Ben finding this out, and this is his emotional arc, being the family member of a goblin, kind of dealing with that in his own unique way, and then coming to terms with that at the end by doing what a journalist does and revealing the truth about this goblin stuff. Overall, like a really good story, really good art, as I said a whole lot. Next is we get what Wrath has been up to. Wrath being this girl in purple. I forget her secret identity right now. But she's a friend of Carly Cooper. She's investigating why Peter Parker is acting so differently lately, and has been in this investigation pretty much since Superior started up. She's been kidnapped, well, not kidnapped, but held hostage. I guess it's kidnapped. It's kind of the same thing. Held hostage by Superior, by Doc Ock's robot, in Peter's in the Parker labs before breaking out. And now helping, well, basically, it's this whole story is kind of just one long fight scene between her and Carly Cooper as the Goblin. I forgot what her Goblin name is, but pretty much a big fight scene there. And then her learning that this Goblin is Carly Cooper, and is it Carly or Charlie? I've suddenly realized I don't know anyone's name. And then, of course, after she gets the cure, or a cure, it hasn't been tested yet, so they're testing it on her just because she's gone crazy and is attacking anyone. So they test it on her, she gets knocked out cold, and then Wrath decides to go hunt for Spider-Man and, really help out with the whole Goblin War thing too. So this is entirely tangential, unlike a lot of annuals that tie into big events. This one It doesn't really advance the plot at all. It just tells us where these really minor side characters are up to during this event, which I guess is good for an annual. Like, it is an extra thing. You don't want it to have to be there. But this is like incredibly supplementary. If you're not interested in anyone except for Spider-Man, then you don't have to read this at all. But it is very well written. The art, at least for the first part, is spectacular. The art for the second part, it's not bad. It's just kind of, it doesn't hold up in my opinion to just this style, which I really enjoy. And they are well written enough stories. I mean, the first part, which is the main chunk of this book, I just really enjoyed that entire thing. If the annual were just that, I'd be happy. So everything else is just extra. Of course, it doesn't take anything away from what was good. So I would recommend it if you just kind of want to get this whole complete story. If you just want to read some really good side stories of the Goblin War, then pick it up. If you don't care at all, then you don't have to. But you know, it's $5. Yeah, it's $5. So if you have that to spare and you want to read something good, pick it up. Next, we have Batman and Aquaman, which is what Batman and Robin is this week. I mean, this month. Of course, Robin has been dead for a while. This begins a new arc following the Batman and Two-Face arc, which ended quite spectacularly. I don't mean that like in terms of like it was good. I enjoyed it, but I meant like in terms of what they did at the end. I'm not going to spoil it in case you don't know, even though it happened a month ago or whatever. Just really has nothing to do with this. This arc begins, as you can see up on the top here, the hunt for Robin, which is at the end of the last arc. Bruce discovered that that Ra's al Ghul has stolen the bodies of Talia and Damian. So this is Batman hunting hunting Ra's, trying to find those bodies. Also, I say Ra's if you mind. I'm sorry if you say Raz or whatever. I've heard both, cases for both that like Raz I think is Hebrew and Ra's is Arabic or whatever. I just say Ra's. That's how I was brought up. I guess I think that's how they say it in the animated series. That's just what I know the name as. If you have a problem with that, I truly am sorry, but I'm not going to change. So yeah, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is the cover. No, it's not done by Rob Liefeld. It's a terrible indicator of the quality of this book. I'm pretty sure the cover artist is Patrick Gleason, so I don't know why it looks, I guess it was rushed or something. Anyway, if you can get past the cover, this is a pretty good start of this arc. Like I said, this is a chase arc. It's an arc about a hunt. So it's very action-packed. They start off very fast with Batman and Ace. First page, you have Batman and Ace tracking Ra's underwater when all of a sudden they run into Aquaman, who then decides to help because Ra's has been harming whales. So this big thing's kind of them chasing Ra's, putting a bunch of goons in their way to fight. And that's really what it is from page 4, basically, or page 5. You got this nice spread of just Aquaman beating up people, Batman, the Bat-Manta submarine. I don't know. I think it looks really cool. As Ra's is starting to run with the bodies. And so, I mean, art. If the first impression I get of your art for this book is that reminds you of Rob Liefeld, that's not exactly a compliment. The insides are better, but not much, I guess. I mean, the lines are cleaner. It looks like there was definitely more time put into some of the faces, but it's still that general kind of blocky style. The lighting's really good. I do appreciate the lighting in the book, but I guess that's color. The coloring is really good. It's not a photograph. It's not lighting. But yeah, it's another chapter 1 of this arc, so it's really hard to judge, just as all chapter 1s are. But I mean, I'm excited to see where this goes. I like Ra's as a villain. Of course, I like Batman. Otherwise, I would read 4 comics with him, more than 4 comics with him every month. I do like Aquaman. I think he's underappreciated. I stopped reading his book just because, I'm not made of money. I have to make some cuts every now and again. And he does have some good moments involving whales. Um, like he is, I don't know. I always like seeing him and stuff. Um, and then we see basically where this is going next. Chapter 2 will take us, also if you read the solicits you know this, to Paradise Island, where Raish is continuing his experiments trying to bring back Talia and Damien, and Batman's trying to get the bodies before he desecrates them. So, I mean, like Batman and Robin has been lately, or I guess Batman and Aquaman in this case, it is well written. I do like what Pete Tomasi's doing with the book. He's doing a bang-up job. So not really complaining about that. This arc, like I said, I think it's an interesting premise. It promises to have a lot of action, being that it is this kind of cat and mouse chase and hunt sort of deal. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell where it's going to go, but it's starting off really good. It's starting off really hot. So if you like Batman, I guess, there you go. So next up, we're exiting the DCU for a bit. Well, not completely. We're going to Vertigo with American Vampire, second cycle, issue 1. And as some of you may know, this is only my second American Vampire book. My first was the anthology that they put out a few months ago, or last year now. Wow. Anyway, so this is my first, I guess, proper American Vampire book that's not just a special anthology sort of dealio. The start of the second half of the story, so I'm playing catch up. I missed the first half entirely, but if it's any indication of how good this book is, it's something I want to go back and read and catch up because this is so well written. If you've been watching, I guess you know I'm a huge fan of Scott Snyder. What he's done in Batman, what he does on another book that I'll be talking about after this, well, not directly after, but later after this one. And this is kind of his baby. If you don't know, American Vampire is his kind of independent, his creator-owned comic. It's his story, original characters, original pretty much everything. And like I said, this is only my second issue, so I'm not really big on the lore. But just from what I get, what I get from this, and it's quite beefy. A lot happens for this. It's another issue 1. A lot of issue 1s this week. I'm sorry for that too. But it's about vampires in America, about their lineage, their history, how they got there, But I think that what Snyder's doing, which I think is really interesting, is that he has this whole kind of genealogy, and that over time the vampires have, adapted to their own environments and evolved, and like there's this whole kind of tree of life that's just vampires, and they all have like different species names, and I think that's really cool, giving them a taxonomy like that, because we don't really see that as like one kind of vampire, pretty much the same. But this one, they all evolve differently, so some of them can survive in the sun. Some of them they all have different like fangs, different teeth. So I think that's really cool that you're giving the vampires all these kind of different variables and details. So this starts off in the Mexican territory of Arizona, 1811, as you can tell by that very helpful box there. We see some Native Americans being wiped out by this mysterious force, who were given, I guess, or we find out later on, is the Gray Stranger. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if he's the Gray Stranger's recurring character or a recurring device in the story, but he seems to be kind of the big bad. It's kind of hinted that he's the original vampire, or has some, strongly hinted he's kind of one of the original vampires. But the other story, I guess the main kind of story, picks up in Kansas in 1965, as you can tell by that very helpful box there. As we see this little girl who's a vampire running away from people trying to get at her before she's taken in by Pearl Jones, who apparently is a reoccurring character. She's one of the main characters in the book, who was in the story rather, who I would know more about if I had read American Vampire previously. Um, but she's rescued by Pearl Jones, who is basically adopting all of these stray vampires um, and keeping them safe in her home, kind of an underground railroad sort of deal, I guess. Because the vampires are being hunted, there's this, big scare about them because, they're vampires. Why wouldn't you be afraid of them? So I guess the main, the biggest part of this book is dedicated to her taking in this vampire who's not quite sure what's happened to her. She's really young, and at the end we discover that she is this that she was bitten. She was transformed by a very very old vampire, um, who's presumably who she calls the Grey Stranger. Yeah, the Great Traitor. I'm sorry, the Great Traitor, and that was the vampire that turned her. And it's a very old, very strong breed, or he's a very old, very strong vampire who creates these very, very strong breeds of vampire. So it's the setup with her story is that she's taken in this vampire, and she wonders, she's trying to keep them all safe, but she's trying to also find a genealogy. She's trying to trace it. Trace the vampire genealogy. The second main story of this book follows. He's called the Candyman. There's info, actually, I should point this out. There's a previously in American Vampire, which catches up on the details. So Pearl Jones is one of the main characters. This basically, I guess, kind of recaps the first half. So Pearl Jones is the lady, her, on this cover. I already talked about. I don't know if I actually pointed her out, but I should do that. Yeah, here she is. That's Pearl. She got turned in the 50s, but the person who turned her, Skinner Sweet, who is Sugar Man, as I said, who is this guy. Second part of this book kind of follows him. He's become an outlaw. He's become a thief, stealing guns and whatever stuff along the border, and feeding off of the merchants, the people stealing the cargo that he is then stealing for himself. Stealing weapons for, I'm not sure why, but we're following him, and then he runs into, presumably, the Great Traitor. He runs into the thing from the very beginning that killed off the Native Americans that we followed, not all of them, but then he seems to run into this thing that's lifting a school bus full of children, and that's where we end the issue there with that. So, yeah, this sets up a lot of things. I've talked about a lot of issue ones this week, but this is probably one of the most just going on right now. We're following at least two stories from these two characters who already have a lot happening, like that I'm not quite sure about, that I do want to catch up on when I have the money to pick up all these other issues. I need a drink. There was dry. Anyway. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot to follow, but again, if you've been reading Snyder, you know that he's really good at introducing all of these different plot points and all these different characters and arcs, but not making it seem too busy. And this book does not seem as busy as I made it sound. It's very well written, it's very well constructed, it's pretty easy to read. Like I said, I'm just jumping in right here, and I kind of got to know where everyone was, what everything is, and there is that helpful little guide in the back if you're, have a little more questions that need to be answered. But right now, we are jumping in the middle here, or at least I am, but I kind of know where we're going. We're introduced to a lot of characters, but at such a pace where it's easy to digest it all. And this is a very digestible first issue, considering how much there's going on in it. I'm very interested. I enjoy the art a lot. I like this kind of dusty style that the book has going for it. Um, and honestly, I'm intrigued. I am wondering who the Great Trader is. Um, I want to know. I mean, a part of that is that I do really enjoy Scott Snyder, and you know, I probably wouldn't be intrigued if someone else wrote this as much, I'll admit. Um, but I trust him to write something very gratifying. And I mean, he says, like, this is his pet project. This is his baby. So he's gonna do the best he possibly can on it, I'm sure. And I want to see it. I want to read it. And he definitely builds an interesting world and some interesting characters. And he's done that with Batman too. He's done that with everything he's worked on. So I can strongly recommend pick this up. Whew. So now another big change of pace. And as much as I had to say about that book, I have, well, not more to say, but I have a lot of other good things to say about our next book, Sex Criminals #5. So, Sex Criminals is my absolute favorite book that's being published right now. I know I might have said that about Batman or other things, but no, this is my absolute favorite comic ongoing comic that I'm reading. It is just, it's perfect. I mean, I don't know. The writing by Matt Fraction is hilarious, but also very heartfelt. The art is very clean. And there's so many little details to pick up on. It's just so good. I just love this entire book. So there's this help previously told in the form of limericks. I don't know if you can read all of that, but if not, it's this is the end of the first arc. By the way, I thought I should mention the end of volume 1, at least. Let me find it. Yes, end of volume 1, as it says on the back inside cover. Very helpful. Cover's really nice too. I think it's like minimal but colorful. Anyway. So this follows John and Susie, who are the two silhouettes on the cover. They're also these two people who are on the first page of the comic, who have the power to stop time when they orgasm. Each of them, and when they do it together, they can both kind of survive in the stop time. They both have the ability, so it doesn't affect them. They stop time for everybody else who doesn't have this ability, and then they can just do it as long as they are orgasming, or like for some time after the orgasm. So they decide that they're going to use this ability to rob a bank in order to save the library that Susie works at. And last issue we saw them get caught by this group of people who also have the ability to stop time by orgasming. And this is them we see them kind of planning the heist more. It's not completely linear. This isn't completely linear. So we see them planning the heist a bit more. And then we see them get caught again. Well, not again, but it jumps back. So last issue we saw them get caught while doing the heist, or the robbery rather. It's not a heist, while doing the robbery. This issue starts with them trapped in the back of the car, as you can see. And then we get a flashback to planning the heist. And then we get a lot of kind of character building. But this book is great at doing is giving this exposition, but in a way that doesn't feel like exposition, that drives the plot and drives all the characters forward. So even remember having these flashbacks, it feels like it's still driving the story forward. It doesn't feel like a flashback. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like plot. It feels like stuff going forward. It feels like progress. And the whole, like, as many we jump around, we jump from them in the car, in the present, We jump from this flashback of them planning the heist and doing their kind of first dry run of it. We then flash through some other bits of Susie in a library, John and Susie just talking about things. It's just so, I don't even know. It's just, I really don't want to talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything. If you aren't reading, definitely pick it up. It's, like I said, my favorite book right now. Sex Criminals. Everything about it. It's just like, I don't know, it's just everything is perfect. If you don't mind a comic, it also like handles everything really maturely. It's like it's a book called Sex Criminals. The big joke is that they have sex and stop time and do all this shit. But it's handled all very mature. Just the idea of sex. They don't treat sex as a taboo or as something to be treaded carefully about. They like jump in and they have a lot of fun, but they do it responsibly, as sex should be done. And like just they do it in terms of the way that women deal with sex and men deal with sex, and it's just done so well. The characters are so well developed at this point. They're so well rounded. They have their flaws and their strengths and their likes and their dislikes, their motivations, their quirks, just like everything. And it's definitely building. Like this issue probably builds the world the most, just because you get these other characters with the same ability meeting John and Susie. And John and Susie realizing that they're not alone in this and that there are repercussions to their actions, even though they can stop time and all that. It's just everything about this comic is wonderful. I can't say enough about it. And it's cute. It's a cute comic. Their characters are cute. And Susie and John are cute together, and they're charming. And it's just, you want to be their friends and also have sex with them. I don't know. It's just great. It's just a great book. Everything about it is great, including, and I definitely want to point this out because I don't think I have before, the letters to the editor section. This is almost as good as the comic itself. It's just so raw and honest and like it respectful. It's funny, but it doesn't make fun of anybody. It's like I'd pay $4 to read the letters to the editor. It's just amazing. As is the comic. I mean, Fraction and I have so no idea how to pronounce his last name. Zarsky, I don't know. Anyway, just seem like I don't know. It just they seem like such great guys, to write this sort of thing, and it's just I if I talk any more about it, I'm not going to make any more sense. Really, so just pick it up, read it. Pick up the back issues. I think Trade's coming out soon. Pick that up. Buy it for your friend. It's the perfect book for anybody. Just wonderful. Go read it, is all I have to say. Unfortunately, we're not ending on that point, but we're not really ending on a bad point either. We still have 2 more books to go, first of which is Superman Unchained, number 6. And I feel just weird about kind of the pacing of this book. Because when announced, it was announced as an ongoing. It seems now that it's going to end after issue 9, which is just the end of one arc of the book, just the Snyder and Jim Lee arc. So that's going to be just it for Superman Unchained. So it's kind of like a limited series. But again, I mean, Scott Snyder, Jim Lee, probably the best Superman book coming out right now. And this continues issue 6, right in the middle of the story right now. So last issue, Superman found out that all of the nukes are being launched. 919 nukes being launched all at once. The Justice League is mobilized to stop as many as they can, but of course it's too many for all of them to handle, so they need Superman on it. But Superman's kind of distracted by Wraith, who is this blue guy on the book, who has had a very shaky relationship with Superman. If you haven't been reading, Wraith he's basically Superman plus. He's Superman. He has like all of Superman's powers, but without any of his weaknesses, and he's been absorbing sunlight longer, so he's even more powerful than Superman. He's also a weapon used by the American government. So he is like a person. He's not. He's he has a conscience and he's sentient, whatever. But he crash landed in America during World War II or slightly before World War II. Was used to end World War II and has been basically this soldier for America ever since. So he's very patriotic, and he's bothered that Superman isn't working for his country. Um, and so they have this friendship based on they're both aliens or whatever, but they have these very different ideologies. And so this book it's the nuke issue, I guess. So Wraith goes off to blow up as many nukes as he can over America, but just over America, while Superman goes to Ascension, which are the big bads of this book. This big terrorist organization, they're the ones that organized the nuke launch. And he goes after them in order to stop the nukes at the source of the launch, which he does. They self-destruct their base. Superman grabs this magic crystal that's kind of like the crystals in the Fortress of Solitude. They contain information, whatever. So he takes that from them. They blow up their base. He escapes with Lois Lane, who is investigating Ascension anyway. They stop all the nukes, blah, blah, blah. And then and then basically a two-pronged thing right now. So this ends with the U.S. declaring war on Superman, and then Wraith going after Batman personally in order to kill Batman. So
yeah, and as you can probably tell just from the summary, a lot of action. It's all about stopping nukes. This whole issue is about stopping nukes. So you get a lot of action. You get a lot of Superman flying around, a lot of Wraith flying around, a lot of explosions, lots of superpowers, lots of punching. You get some, Superman, Batman, both in it. Both play big roles. As does Lois Lane, but not as much as Superman and Batman. It's like Superman, Batman, Lois Lane. In terms of our protagonists, Wraith is somewhere in between. He shifts, focus. But right now, we seem to be done with this. He seems to be out of the picture, and the rest of this book, the next 3 issues, are just going to be kind of Superman versus Wraith, or Batman and Superman versus Wraith, and how that's going to handle out. So that, it's like we got rid of all the nukes, now it's time for the real battle to begin, kind of deal. Like I said before, my favorite Superman book right now. If you like Superman, if you haven't been reading this, you've been missing out, and we're just getting to like the beginning of the final fight. So it's a great time to, right before the next one comes out, just re-up, get to this point, and then, prepare for the big fight coming next month. And yeah, I'm just really excited. I've been loving this entire book. This is just like end of Act 2, so we're getting for the big parts. And then the final book today, and I can't tell, again, just where this is in terms of an arc, which is why it's the last book I'm talking about, is Wonder Woman issue 29. I want to say it's the beginning of a new arc, but it's like this kind of transition from end to new. So it's like the last issue of the last arc, but also the first issue of the new arc, all in one. So this kind of weird sort of V thing. So last issue, the Firstborn killed Apollo and took over Olympus. This issue sees the aftermath of that, where we see Wonder Woman, Cassandra, Athena, Zola, all of the people we basically came across, got transported to Olympus, where they see all the trouble that the Firstborn had caused just in a few hours at this point of being king. We get a big fight between Firstborn, Wonder Woman, basically everyone, this kind of big battle royale, or it's really the first fight. Well, it's not the first fight between all these people, but first fight of the new arc, I guess. Like I said, it's hard to describe where we are in terms of the story, because it's all been, since issue 1, this has all been like kind of one really big arc, one really big story. So we get this fight scene between Wonder Woman, Athena, the Firstborn, which goes in the Firstborn's favor. before Hera comes along to save the day, not by defeating the Firstborn, but by kind of getting everyone grouped together and fleeing once again back to Earth, to Paradise Island, where, and this is why I think this is also the beginning of the first issue of a new arc, where we see Wonder Woman lead the Amazon army as she claims the title of God of War for the first time after Ares' death. So a lot goes on in this issue. Kind of everyone's kind of all over the place, doing their own thing. Everyone grouped together. They meet the enemy beats them down, they teleport away, and we see them, regroup for the next battle. It's a standard part of a story. Like this were, I guess that's, again, I guess Superman, that's the end of Act 2. If you follow like a normal movie, it's hero wins, villain returns, villain wins, and then hero wins again. So we're right at the end of the villain's win point, and we're starting that climb up to hero's final victory. Just in terms of that, I guess, 3-act story structure with superheroes. And so yeah, that's where we are right now. Wonder Woman taking the mantle of God of War, and we're going to see where that goes next. But again, like Batman, like Superman Unchained, Wonder Woman has been one of the more consistently great comics since the New 52. It's one I've been recommending pretty much since issue 1. And Brian Azzarello is actually leaving Wonder Woman after this arc, I think. So this is his final, this is the third act. This is the last act of Brian Azzarello's run on Wonder Woman, which he has had from issue 1. So, yeah, this is what it's all basically leading up to. Wonder Woman claiming her new title and taking Olympus back. We still haven't really found out what's up with Zola and her son, where they lie in the whole King of Olympus thing, but we're gonna find out soon, really soon, probably. So I'm excited, and if you've been following Wonder Woman, which you should be, because this is a great comic, then you should be really excited for where this is going next. Also, because we're heading into the finale, we're heading into end territory here. And that is the last book. Whew. Oh my God, I think this is the longest video since I've started this up again. Lots of book this week, and I had a lot to say about all of them, pretty much. So, lots of stuff next week. I'm pretty sure even more books. Hopefully it won't be as long, but we had a lot of good books this week. Hopefully you enjoyed me kind of babbling on and on about them. Hopefully I've convinced you to pick up at least Sex Criminals. Just if you see this book anywhere, just buy it. Just buy it. It's perfect. Buy the previous 4 issues. Best comic on market right now. So hopefully I've convinced you at least by this. Hopefully, I don't know if you've been on the fence about any of these. Hopefully I convinced you one way or the other to pick them up or not. And please, if you have your own thoughts, please leave them in the comments. If you liked what you saw, sub if you feel like it. And hopefully you'll join me next week with next week's batch. And then I think the first week of April is a bit of a lull. So at least I get to rest my voice. Like I said, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week, hopefully.